knew 2025 was going to be the year of FAFO. There were a lot of people who fucked around, so there are a lot of people who are going to have to find out. But what I did not take into account is that Dusty Musty was actually going to become the poster child for FAFO. And I cannot explain to you the immense amounts of joy that brings to me. Let's talk about it. Number one, Tesla stock's in free fall. It's falling faster than a Kardashian on Ozempic. Number two, his SpaceX rockets are blowing up left and right. They're just exploding in the sky. And I'll tell you one thing I know about rockets. They're not supposed to explode in the sky, okay? Number three, I just heard this morning that he was supposed to do a Starlink deal with a Mexican billionaire, but because of something he retweeted, that deal got yanked and he just lost more billions of dollars. And that just makes me so happy. But let's circle back to the thing that made me the happiest over the past couple days, and that is the fact that Dusty Musty has to have the orange turd trying to sell Teslas right off the White House lawn. Let me just remind you that anybody who still supports the orange turd would be anti-EV and also not have anywhere near enough money to afford a Tesla, even if it's only $299 a month. I saw those notes. Okay, that's a good deal, but no one's getting it for $299 a month. Their credit scores aren't that good. Not to mention they don't even have enough credit to buy them. And on top of that, the group of people who would still be willing to buy anything off the orange turd and Dusty Musty are the same people who are so anti-EV. They said they were leaving the state of California when Gavin Newsom announced that California had to go full EV by like 2032. Okay, they ain't gonna be buying Teslas, number one, and they certainly cannot afford them. So
are trying to reassure their constituents that they're not going to cut Medicaid, Medicare, or Social Security. However, there's a big problem here. And that's the fact that they've asked for $880 billion in cuts over the next 10 years. Today, the Congressional Budget Office shared that that is literally impossible without touching the three largest expenses: Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. So ultimately, something has to give here. Either they're not going to fulfill their promises to their constituents, or they're lying to their constituents' faces. More likely, the latter. And while the Republicans say there's not one mention of cutting Medicaid in the congressional budget, that is just what's going to happen if they want to fulfill their promise. And as a reminder, more than 70 million Americans are on Medicaid. 40% of all births in the United States are partially covered by Medicaid, with a vast majority of those being in southern Republican states.
Has got to be feeling a little bit of something, just a little bit, for him to talk Trump in to making the White House lawn a dealership, a car dealership, a Tesla's car dealership. He practically sold Trump a Tesla on the White House lawn. They got in it. They talked about it. I thought I was at a dealership. So is that what we're doing now at the White House? We got Elon talking the President of the United States into making the White House lawn out of a car dealership. What the hell is going on? And I don't want to hear nothing about he not missing it. He not missing this money. He's a millionaire. He missing something. He's feeling a little something.
Trump is declaring a national energy emergency after we beaver slapped you in the face with export taxes. Now that Nebraska's freaking out because nobody's planting their fields. Now that Tennessee and Kentucky are freaking out because no one's buying their alcohol. Now that the construction trades are freaking out because the cost of steel and lumber has gone through the roof. Now that the portfolio managers are freaking out because the stock market crashed. Are you guys ready to admit you probably shouldn't have started a trade war with your neighbors yet? Are you ready to admit that you actually need Canada? Are you ready to admit that it's time for that Cheeto to go? Because I can tell you that as a Canadian, we haven't even taken our gloves off yet. Just wait until you learn about potash.
Stop hosing us, you.
When people are in a cult, there's always a documentary that comes after, like, years later, and they discuss, like, what happened in the cult and what they would do and then, like, how they got out. There's going to be a documentary in a couple of years about this MAGA cult. And when they start talking about their stories and whatnot, I am not going to feel bad for any single one of you. Like, at all. Y'all knew what you were getting yourselves into. You knew what the outcome was going to be, yet you still continued to be.
Where's the people? Silence. This is all because of the immigration law.
It's Friday, 11:45 a.m. Ain't not one Mexican inside, not one food truck, no music, no tools going.
The Hispanic workforce is pretty much gone out here.
Our workers, the Hispanics, they will be up there. They don't want this to get wet. All those houses are sold, getting wet more than they have to and getting destroyed by the humidity. Well, they pay for them already.
Usually used to be worked on every day in, day out. Ain't nobody working. Not a soul.
Asking us to have empathy for you. You outlawed it. Stop asking us to fight the system. We did with our votes. Stop asking us to think deeper. You outlawed being woke. You did what you did, and you made us all fucking suffer with you. Now you want our empathy? You don't get shit!
Understanding that there's not going to be a find out phase, because one of the main characteristics of a cult is the inability to take responsibility or to recognize the fault of your group cult. My question is, most cults eventually end, obviously. Are we going to see an end to this? When is the end? What will it take for them to have this illusion broken? What is going to be the catalyst for the ending of this cult? Or is it going to be like Scientology? Like, some cults don't, or haven't yet, or have very long lifespans. So, like, realistically, from somebody who knows more about this than I do, I am curious to know how we see this panning out. What's it going to take? Is there anything that can disillusion them, or is this just something that we're going to have to live with?
Right now, the Trump administration just suffered one of its biggest losses in court to date, as a federal judge has ordered the immediate reinstatement of all probationary employees at 6 federal agencies who were previously fired. This is over 20,000 employees who literally just got their jobs back. This ruling will affect 6 federal agencies: the Department of Veterans Affairs, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Defense, the Department of Energy, the Department of Interior, and the Department of Treasury. The federal government must immediately reinstate thousands of probationary employees who were previously fired under the Trump administration's downsizing plan. Judge William Alsup called the plan a, quote, sham. And as a result, at least temporarily, because of this preliminary injunction, these federal employees will receive their jobs back and will be paid again by the federal government. It's unclear whether or not they would receive back pay for the time.
Long video at the start of the tariff war business talking about how angry Canadians are about this tariff war business. At the end of the video, I said, Canadians said, I'm going to fold your financial clothes while you're still in them, bud. Right? And Canada did, they did just that. They did just that. On a side note, I would like to say that I'm sorry to those particular states where energy has been increased 25%, because he also said that if those tariffs are not gone by next month, it's going to go up another 25%.
Trump has entered the fuck around and find out stage of the tariff war that he started, because he's now declaring a national emergency for the 3 states that the Canadian province of Ontario has targeted. So this is going to be glorious. Could bully another country and we wouldn't do anything. No, we are standing up to the bully, and we are going to hit them as hard as they plan to, ruining a century-old trading relationship between Canada and the U.S., and there's going to be probably a recession because of it. The Dow is falling, the stock market is crashing, all because of this crazy tariff war that he instigated, because he does have ulterior motives, and it's not about fentanyl like he's saying that it is. He finds out what happens when you fuck around with your closest ally and try to economically destroy them. So we're going to sit back and watch it happen, and I really, really hope that Canada comes out on top.
I just wanted to address something here real quick. I know a lot of people are saying to Trump supporters that they hope that the Trump supporters are getting what they voted for. But the thing is, they are. They voted to hurt people who they consider beneath them. They voted to hurt people who don't fit into the box that they have shoved themselves into. So that means that they voted to hurt people of color, of all colors, immigrants, gay people, trans people, and women who don't obey men. Those are the people they wanted to hurt, and they are getting what they voted for. Yes, Some of them might be out of jobs. Some of them might suffer some of the fallout from it. But most of the MAGA, first of all, anything that happens to them is being blamed on someone else, so they don't get it. So, I don't know. I don't know about that saying. I hope you get what you voted for, because they are. They are about cruelty, and they're getting that in spades. So maybe we come up with something.
Around and find out with these tariffs to Canada, because now Ontario in Canada, the premier there, is placing a 25% surcharge on all electricity that they export to 3 of our border states, Michigan, Minnesota, and New York. That's about $100 a month per customer, 1.5 million people at least. And guess what he is saying? He said he's not going to hesitate to raise the surcharge or even shut it off completely if Donald Trump keeps this up. Look, sometimes you play, you want to bluff or whatever, and sometimes people call your bluff and you end up losing, like Donald Trump is a loser right now. And guess what? So are the American people, because he's the one that's leading the country. He's the one that started this tariff BS. F around and find out. DJT